Hi, in this video we will present NetSentrix's Advanced Adaptive Incident Response for DDoS protection solution and its benefits over traditional firewalls like IP tables or NF tables. Here we are looking at 4 different consoles. On the top left, we are running the netstat command every second to track all the live connections on the server. On the top right, we are running the nload command to look at the network usage and load. In this console, we will see time series details of network usage if it spikes up. Keep an eye on the current average values for incoming. Below that on the bottom left, we are looking at the CPU usage per second at the system level. In this console we will track the overall system load. Keep an eye on the %sys value. And finally, on the bottom right, we have the NetSentrix control panel, a web UI from which we will control the NetSentrix agent and the kernel module behavior. Traditional firewalls like IP tables or NF tables operate at the net filter level in the Linux kernel, which is way higher up. Incoming packets traverse the kernel stack before reaching NetFilter for inspection. Multiple copies occur before malicious packets are dropped. By using XDP, it can process or drop packets directly at the NIC driver without copying them into the kernel stack. This reduces CPU usage for packet processing, freeing up resources for application workloads. NetSentrix XDP module operates at the NIC ingress/egress level, hence it's able to filter any packets much earlier than the IP table/NF tables. We will be able to observe this during our DDoS experiment later in this video. To protect against the DDoS attacks, most system admins use a firewall mechanism called connection limit. That's how they are able to control the number of connections from a foreign IP and hence be able to control the number of packets. However, this alone will not suffice when those limited connections can still flood the server with billions and sometimes trillions of packets in a very short span of time, thereby hogging system resources and bandwidth. First, we will enable this firewall rule on our host server as well. IP tables input PTCP SYN port 80M can limit above 10 can limit mask 32J reject with TCP reset. We will check that this rule is in place by doing IP tables S. So this IP table rule will limit the number of connections from any IP address to a maximum of 10. Next we will simulate a DOS attack from the attacker IP address 3.145.66.69. So let's do this and see what happens to the server system and network load. Alright, so I launched this in another window. We will wait a minute for the effects to take place. We can see a number of changes happening on the host server now. On the top left, we see 10 new connections from the attacker IP address 3.145.66.69. It is restricted to 10 by the IP tables rule we said earlier. This is the limitation of IP tables. It can limit connections, but it cannot control the packet rate limit on these connections. On the top right, we can see the network load went up heavily in the order of megabits per second. We can also observe the time series of bandwidth as it has grown heavily in the last 1 minute as the attack was launched. On the bottom left console, we can see the CPU usage. The system percentage has gone up a lot as the server is busy processing massive network bandwidth it's receiving from the attacker. So we can clearly see the impact of DOS from just one IP. One can imagine the impact of a full-fledged attack coming from hundreds of attackers simultaneously. Next, we will load the NetSentrix kernel module and see how it reduces the impact of the DOS attack. So, on the NetSentrix web console, we will do the load module. We will wait 5 seconds for the NetSentrix agent to load it in the kernel. We will then check the module status. We will click on the show module status to see if the module has been loaded. So here we see that the XDP_rate_limiter module has been loaded on the INX0 interface with a certain ID. Once the module is loaded, we want to limit the number of connections to 10 per IP just like the IP tables rules we did earlier. So let's make that 10 and update the value, and we will wait for a few seconds for the effect to take place. Now we can see in the top right the network load has reduced to kilobits per second from megabits per second earlier, since the NetSentrix module is starting to drop packets early before it reaches the IP tables or net filter layer. The bottom left window also shows a dramatic reduction in the CPU usage. The NetSentrix module is effectively identifying the attacks and temporarily blocking the packets from the attacker IP. Let's check the Greylist on the web console. It takes a few seconds to load since the NetSentrix agent reads it from the kernel space. So we see that the attacker IP 3.145.66.69 is added in the Greylist due to their suspicious behavior, and their activity has been limited. The timestamp shows when this IP was added to the Greylist. This is a temporary addition and will be removed once the expiry window passes. But if the attacker persists in engaging in suspicious behavior, this IP will be blocked permanently. There is also a blacklist and whitelist feature where the sysadmin can upload a file containing the IP addresses to allow or block permanently. NetSentrix also has a packet rate limiter for every IP address. The customer can easily set it to say 100 packets per second, so it will throttle the traffic from unknown IP addresses, thereby preemptively protecting the server from unknown or bad actors. The customer can also set a cap on the total number of packets from any IP as a last resort to protect their infrastructure. Once this is set, any packets beyond this number will be dropped. The NetSentrix agent and kernel module employs a variety of strategies to not only identify many kinds of cyber attacks, bots and malicious activity, but also block it automatically. It's a next-gen advanced incident response agent that uses machine learning and various cutting-edge tools to protect the network infrastructure 24/7 so the customers can operate their online businesses smoothly in an uninterrupted manner. Thank you for listening. Please contact us if you would like to use NetSentrix Advanced Adaptive Incident Response Suite to protect your network and system infrastructure. Contact details are below in the description.